Part 152. The Siege of Taif. Some historians consider the Siege of Taif to be a separate battle to the Battle of Hunain, as it was a distinct event that occurred at the fortress of Taif. However, many historians refer to them both in the same chapter, as one occurred immediately after the other. As soon as the Muslims were victorious at Hunain, they marched straight to Taif. When the pagans dispersed and fled, the Banu Thaqif fled to their fortresses in Taif. Unlike the fortresses of Medina, Taif was located on a luscious mountainous plateau surrounded by beautiful greenery and plentiful vegetation. It was therefore extremely difficult to penetrate, and due to their natural resources they had fresh water and enough stock to last over a year. The people of Taif were planning to attack the Muslims for months prior, so they made sure to stock up on supplies in case of a siege. The Prophet likewise prepared in advance. As the Muslims marched to Hunain, he sent Urwa ibn Mas'ud and Gaylan ibn Salama on a special expedition to the Roman tribe of Jurash to learn about special instruments of war. They learned how to build and use a catapult, a device that uses a long arm to hurl projectiles over a large distance, most commonly used to attack fortresses in sieges. Also learn how to attack a fortress using the testudo formation. Testudo is Latin for tortoise, and the testudo formation is when soldiers group together to form a communal shield to protect themselves from attacks from all directions. They were most commonly used by Roman legions, particularly in sieges. And how to build and use a battering ram, a device that uses a large wooden beam to break down large walls during a siege. All these devices and techniques were completely foreign to the Arabs, but the Prophet was proactive in enhancing techniques in warfare. Despite their best efforts in utilizing these advanced techniques and devices, the Muslims struggled to penetrate the imposing walls. The people of Taif threw boulders, poured boiling oil, and showered the Muslim army with arrows, inflicting many casualties. The Muslims were struggling to maintain the attack, and the Prophet suggested that they leave and return at a later date. Some companions, in their unrestrained zeal, were adamant in their desire to remain. After tasting the victories of Mecca and Hunain, they pleaded with the Prophet to continue, to which he agreed. The companions then resorted to an unfavorable tactic of burning the crops, which would destroy their agricultural produce for decades to come. The people of Taif began to wail and plead from the rooftops for the Muslims to stop.
"We ask you by Allah and by our blood relation."
The Prophet's heart softened upon hearing their pleading, and he forbade the companions from burning any agriculture. The Prophet then announced to the people of Taif, "Anyone who joins us will be protected, and any slave who joins us will be freed." Many people then escaped in the night and joined the ranks of the Muslims, but the state of affairs remained as it was. The companions tried once more to penetrate the walls and again were faced with major casualties. The Prophet then suggested for a second time that they return home, and the companions quietly agreed. After almost 2 weeks of an unsuccessful siege, the Muslims left, and the companions asked the Prophet to make dua against the Banu Thaqif. Not only did they expel the Prophet years prior and cause him the most emotional distress he ever faced, but they now caused many Muslim deaths and rejected the call to Allah once more. The Prophet raised his hands and all the companions raised their hands, and the Prophet prayed, "O Allah, guide Thaqif. O Allah, bring the people of Thaqif to us." The Prophet prayed for them when they brutally expelled him, and now he prayed for them again, as his priority was always their guidance. The unsuccessful siege of Taif demonstrates the limitations of this world. Even the Messenger of Allah could not guarantee automatic victory at every stage. Allah could have easily handed the Prophet another victory following Mecca and Hunain, but the siege of Taif provides the believer with an invaluable lesson in patience and acceptance. Victory and loss do not necessarily represent Allah's pleasure or anger. Rather, victories and losses are both tests from Allah. The former tests one's gratitude and ego, and the latter tests one's patience and acceptance. Above all, the believer's trust is in Allah, not in their own actions.